Hello, hello. I am a real deep admirer of the painting The Transfiguration of Jesus Christ by the painter Raphael from Italy. Raphael was one of the greatest painters in history and always will be and always has been. A real record breaker, and the three greatest ones are Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. And from all three, Raphael probably painted with the most vibrant colors and also the sharpest contrast and resolution in the picture itself, and almost photorealistic, but then it went into a little bit of an abstract sometimes because of exaggerated ideals, which was called mannerism at that time. It was a form of art. It was just to exaggerate desired shapes to a larger degree. Not in the form of modernism, modern art, which leaps out of the regular shape altogether, like with people like Picasso as the forerunner, who would enlarge certain body parts, or he would disfigure the face and put the eyes on top of each other instead of next to each other. And or Fernando Botero, who made people really fat, or Horst Antes, who had the eyes on the side and the faces became like a completely different shape. Horst Antes was one of my greatest inspirers in my life. And but it is very interesting to see this development in art already in the 1500s, where these three great painters that were contemporaries, that were competing with each other, how they already put their own needs and their own art into it. They let their own pleasure art flow into it. Not to the point where they dared to jump out of the actual norms. They didn't dare to jump out of the actual normative shapes like the modern artist did. But they exaggerated certain things. And with the horses, we can see that they exaggerated the shapes of the Arab horses. The horses were real obese, but then they had like these petite legs and very petite faces that almost became human, with these really deep set eyes and gigantic eyes. The eyes were made bigger than they were in actuality, and the necks were just made more rounded and fatter, and it's just an exaggeration of that what they were regarded as beauty at that time. And I understand, because I do that myself when I paint. I bring in my own necessary exaggerations. So it's just the artist in me that has the need to do that. When I do a portrait, for example, of somebody, I will highlight certain things that stand out for me in that particular face. So with my dog, I make the lips that hang down very deep. I make him hang down even deeper, And I make the nose even more exaggerated and wider, and the cheeks even more narrow, so that it becomes almost like a, yeah, it becomes more like an abstract in the end. So and it can flow into an abstract. It can flow into some kind of like a rectangular cubic shape out of this. And I like those types of exaggeration metamorphoses. So that is, in my opinion, what true art or modern art is all about. But in the era of mannerism, it was already starting. It already had the first tendencies to move into that direction of abstraction, in the sense of beauty, of, but not just beauty idea of that time, but also their own personal sense of beauty and aesthetics. What is aesthetics? Aesthetics can be a sign of the times, but it can also be a completely individual form of aesthetic. So the painting, The Transfiguration of Jesus Christ by Raphael, for me is like, it's more than a painting. It is the most extreme environment and atmosphere I have ever seen in a painting. And it wasn't even finished. He died while he was making that painting. He was 37 and he died from what they think was syphilis or some kind of sexually transmitted disease. He was a womanizer and they had orgies. And even though he was working in the Vatican, and that painting is hanging in the Vatican. One pope died while he was painting. And then the other pope that took over also loved Raphael, even though he knew Raphael was doing the opposite of what he was allowed to do. So like opposite lifestyles all under one roof, but they were so in awe with the artwork of Raphael that they kind of like blended that out, that lifestyle that Raphael was having. So I don't know. I don't even know where he lived there, or I think he was given a really large place in the Vatican to live. He started to make a lot of money. He was becoming very wealthy. He had couturiers that were making him amazing clothes out of silk and velvet, and really amazing clothes. While Michelangelo didn't care about this. He wore rags, and Michelangelo only was interested in painting. That was all. He was not even interested in relationships or any of that. And he may have been homosexual too. He may have had relationship with a man or with some men, but he was mainly interested in painting, while Raphael was painting and socializing, and quite amazing. And yet he was really productive also. He got a lot accomplished in very short time, which is quite amazing. But the Transfiguration is about 10 feet by 15 feet or something like that. Oil on wood. I would never paint on wood because wood has become a scarce resource, and it is unsustainable to use wood for anything, as a matter of fact. So I buy styrofoam boards that are sustainable. They're made from waste products basically, and so I'm using them, and they will last for millions of years to come. So while the wood probably will not last for millions of years. And I use synthetic acrylic colors instead of natural oil colors. and natural oil colors are also using precious resources which we shouldn't be using. So we should be using acrylic colors which are made from waste products in the oil industry. So and I think they can also be recycled, and they can be made from recycled materials, so which is going to be coming up in the future, I think. So, and acrylic lasts a lot longer as well. I think doesn't break down as easily as oil paint that is dried. So, but acrylic color then again is sensitive to moisture in the air, and it has to be stored in very dry places like attic or some places, maybe in the desert or something, where there's no wind getting to it. So it's not good to be storing that in places where it gets very foggy or where there's any leaks or something, because then the acrylic color will dissolve and it will peel off. So, but if they're handled well, it will last for millions of years. So that's pretty neat. But even if it doesn't last for millions of years, it's just it's just important to make it, because it is a wonderful process to paint. And Raphael is definitely the greatest painter in my opinion, greater than Leonardo or Michelangelo or any of the other ones, because they're all really, really accurate, precise, and amazing. They all put their own feelings into it. Raphael, however, is really exceeding all these other ones. He depicts things in the most shiny and glorious and vibrant, almost like a palpable dream. It almost looks like a dream atmosphere. In particular, the Transfiguration of Jesus at the mount in Israel.